The honourable member for Thornhill.
We know the Prime Minister has lost control of spending, and now we see he's lost control of his own minister. We have a finance minister who won't tell us what the deficit is, and a Prime Minister who doesn't think about monetary policy, and that seems like a match made in heaven. But then again, maybe not. The Globe and Mail reports that, quote, tensions have risen between the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Minister's department, saying that the current dynamic appears to be similar to what happened with Bill Morneau before he quit. The Prime Minister bullies females and he bullies finance ministers, and now he's bullying a female finance minister. How much longer is she going to put up with that?
Allard, s'il vous plaît.
Order, please.
Members to take their seats. The honourable member from Lakeland, I'll ask her, please, to not take the floor unless recognised. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker,
no.
On this side of the House, we are united in working Canada and Canadians.
We're united. That's why you have a caucus revolting against you.
Colleagues, the chair has stood up for longer than a minute, which would be one question. I'm going to ask members to control themselves. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are united in working hard for Canada and Canadians. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, the only would-be bullies in this House are directly opposite. But I am very comfortable standing up to them. I look forward, together with my colleagues, to tabling the Fall Economic Statement on Monday in this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. 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 The honourable member. The honourable member for Thornhill.
So awkward. I don't know why the finance minister takes all of this abuse from the Prime Minister. She told Canadians that the deficit wouldn't go past $40 billion. That was her own self-imposed guardrail. Now she says everything's fine as her political career collapses, and so does her credibility, all because of this Prime Minister. 5 senior Liberal veterans and 3 political staffers confirmed to the Globe that the tensions have risen between her office and the PMO over spending. These are the same people who last summer said that she couldn't communicate. We know what the Prime Minister thinks of her, but why does she still have confidence in him?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are united. And on this side of the House, we recognize what a privilege it is every single day to work hard for Canada and Canadians and to defend the national interest. That is what we are focused on every single day. And I would urge the MPs opposite to remember, this is a challenging time in Canada and the world. It is not a time for cheap partisan games.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
It's the finance minister who said over and over again that she would not go over her self-imposed guardrail of a $40 billion deficit. Now the parliamentary budget officer says that's yet another broken Liberal promise. We have no idea who's in the driver's seat anymore, driving Canadians through that $40 billion guardrail off of a cliff as they pay more in inflationary spending on the backs of struggling Canadians. What we do know is that Canadians ought to take her driver's license away. I can give her another opportunity to prove that she can communicate. She can stand up here and tell us what the deficit is at the moment.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I look forward to tabling the fall economic statement in this House on Monday. And in the fall economic statement, we will show that the government is maintaining its fiscal anchor, specifically reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. In addition, I expect the debt to GDP ratio we projected in the spring budget for fiscal year 23-24 will be met. Canada has the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, the lowest deficit in the G7. This is good news for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Unable to table a single balanced budget in 9 years, unable to keep the promise to keep the deficit under 40 billion, the Finance Minister is above all unable to convince her leader to abandon inflationary spending. There are major tensions between these two, according to the Globe and Mail. The Prime Minister is losing control of public finances, borders, his caucus, and even his cabinet. Can he do any good and at least tell us how much the deficit exceeds the announced $40 billion? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will be tabling the fall economic statement next Monday in this very House. And in this economic statement, we show that the government maintains its budgetary anchor. More specifically, reducing the federal debt on average in the economy. I expect the debt-GDP ratio that we've forecasted to be respected for 2023-2024. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance waits until the eve of the end of the parliamentary session to table her economic update. We've seen more courageous people in this House because bad news awaits. And the Globe and Mail tells us that the Prime Minister wants to radically increase spending and that his Finance Minister is failing to make him see reason. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said it. The deficit will be much higher than the $40 billion announced. How big is the deficit? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I am over the moon that the member across the way quoted the Parliamentary Budget Officer, because it's he and his analysis that concluded, and I quote, that the current budgetary policy is viable and sustainable in the long term. That's what the PBO said, straight from the PBO's mouth, which is objective. That's the truth of the matter, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Well, the truth is that there's disorder in public finances, tension at the borders, discord in cabinet, dissatisfaction within his caucus. Canadians are tired of this worn-out, inefficient and spendthrift government. Even his finance minister no longer gets along with him, according to the Globe and Mail. It is time for him to ask the real question. There's enough to do work. How high and how big is the deficit? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will be tabling the economic statement next Monday here in this very chamber. And in this fall economic statement, we show that the government will maintain its budgetary anchor. It will reduce its federal debt level in the economy in the medium term. The debt-GDP ratio that we forecasted for 23-24 will be maintained.